Blessings, everyone. This is Chris Kendall from the rawadvantage.com, registered holistic nutritionist, raw food lifestyle coach, and raw chef. Today, we're blessed to have Dr. Douglas Graham back, author of the 80-10-10 diet and so many other awesome publications. Today, we're going to be talking about I can't do 80-10-10 because. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, Chris, great to be with you. There's so many reasons why people can't do 80-10-10. I understand that. I appreciate that, that it's not for everybody.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, there's probably a bunch of reasons why it might not be for some people, which maybe we'll make another video about. But what do you think about I can't do 80-10-10 itself? I've heard some people say they don't want to do it or they can't do it because they're afraid they're going to get too skinny.
Well, so you brought up two different points there already, which is so much fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because there's actually 3 points, because I misunderstood a little bit. Partly was there's some people, maybe it's not for them, but then there's people for whom they want to do 80-10-10, but they can't because of this, that, or the other reason.
Yeah.
And that's a valid thing as well. I mean, in this case, the question about getting too skinny, well, there's several parts to that answer. For sure, we know that most people, I can't say everybody, most people think they're above average drivers. That can't be real.
Yeah.
Obviously, most people have to be average drivers, but
I'm
if you
above.
interview them, I'm above too.
Yeah.
But if you interview most people, they'll say that they're above average drivers or even very good, like way above average, which is, it just skews the norm, doesn't it? We're all way above average.
Of course.
So when it comes to what's called body image, our own, like you close your eyes and you picture what your body looks like, most people don't actually have realistic pictures in their mind of what their body looks like. It's odd. And we know there's extreme versions of that, very, very thin people who think they're very, very fat. It can be, for most of us, it's not a problem. It's just one of the facts of life is that we don't have super great awareness of exactly what our body looks like. And one of the reasons for that is because of skin. Skin makes it difficult to know what's under the skin. Yeah. Okay. So if we don't have the education to tell us what's under the skin, and you just look like that opaque surface area makes it difficult to tell what's inside. And we don't know how much is bone, and we don't know how big the bones are. We don't know how much is muscle. We don't know how much is vessels and nerves and the plumbing and all the stuff. We don't really know what's in there or even where those bits are. And a lot of people look at their body and figure that under the skin, it's bones and muscle. But it's not just bones and muscle. It's bones and muscle and fat and all the other bits that I mentioned, all the vessels and organs and whatnot. So when we lose body fat, which is a common occurrence on 80-10-10, if you're carrying excess body fat, to lose down to normal weight or down to normal body fat levels, the visual from the outside appears as if the muscles got smaller.
Yeah.
Which in fact, the muscles stayed the same size. But the fat that's inside the muscles, the fat that's marbled through the muscles, the fat that surrounds the muscles, and the fat that's outside of the muscles between the skin and the muscles, all of that gets reduced. The end result being that you have littler arms and littler legs, and it looks like less muscle.
Yeah.
But the biochemistry, the doctors, the scientists, the sports scientists, everybody who's ever studied what goes on in the body during weight loss, during fat loss, we're not losing muscle. What we're being forced to deal with, if you will, is the fact that we don't carry as much muscle as we were giving ourselves credit for. Oh, I got muscle.
Yeah.
Well, it's not all muscle, and
Husky muscle.
And we look at the marathon runners and we go, oh, they're so skinny.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, but these guys can run faster than you. These guys can run miles and miles and miles at speeds faster than you can attain for a few steps. I mean, they are actually quite well muscled.
Yeah.
They just look trim because they're not carrying a lot of fat. But we're not used to seeing that often. We look at the high jumper and we go, oh, they're so skinny. Well, actually, they're not that skinny. They're strong and they have big muscles where they need them. Okay. Does the bicyclist really have spaghetti arms? Well, no, he's got normal arms. He's just got really well-developed legs, and it makes his arms look skinny. For us, we're shocked when we find out that we don't carry as much fat, as much muscle. We're shocked to find out we don't carry as much muscle as we were giving ourselves credit for. And that takes some dealing with. Do we need to carry more muscle in order to be stronger? No. Will more muscle make us heavier and slower? Yes. Is it an advantage to carry more muscle? Well, only if you're competing in bodybuilding or for some reason you want that look of more muscle, more size. But there's no sport that I'm aware of where having more muscle volume is an advantage. Having more muscle strength is an advantage, but not more muscle volume. So
maybe do you think for combat sports where you're trying to hit a certain weight class, maybe that might be an exception?
Well, if you want to muscle up to get to the next weight class, you would think that might be an exception, except it's also going to make you slower.
Yeah.
Now, is that an advantage in those kind of sports? No, being slower is never an advantage in sport.
Yeah.
It's never an advantage. So we have to not being able to jump as high, not being able to change direction as quickly, not being able to get from A to B as fast, not being able to generate as much momentum or able to control your momentum once you do generate it. Being heavier is not an advantage. But yeah, if you compete, if you weigh 89 and the weight class goes down to 89, and so you're at the very bottom of the class, and you think, oh, I'd do better to add more weight. I don't know, like getting slower. I mean, overall, I honestly don't see it. I honestly don't see it. I understand, like, it's a good question, and people sometimes think, oh, I should get bigger. And we see it sometimes in boxing careers that people get a little heavier and they get a little heavier and they move up in weight classes. Most of that was that they put on muscle. But if they didn't also put on strength, because you don't have to add a lot of strength in order to gain a lot of muscle. You can end up slower and slower. And we see, like, the lightweight fighters are very, very fast, and that most of the big fighters kind of plod along. They're not lightning quick. That's not what they're famous for. They hit hard. They put a lot behind the punch. I mean, you get hit by a 400-pound man. I mean, it's going to have something behind it, right?
Yeah.
But you can move away from them very easily. So it's a trade-off. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to get more muscly. I know that I'm assuming every guy has that little bit inside him. So, oh, more muscle, you know. But but I haven't really seen where that's an advantage. Not in performance, not in sport, it doesn't make you stronger.
Just on the
But
beach.
that's a separate question. The question really was, what happens if I didn't want to lose weight? I went on 80-10-10. I still lost more weight than I even wanted to.
Yeah.
And now I'm discovering like I'm
way
oh
too
my
skinny.
gosh, I really don't carry a lot of muscle mass.
Yeah.
Well, okay. The physique of humans isn't designed to be super muscly. If we look at, what do different animals look like? Some of them are more like spiders and some of them are more like gorillas.
Yeah.
The human physique isn't normally gorilla-like. We're not
huge.
Typically, get real big. That's not the nature of our efforts. The nature of our efforts are if we were in nature, it wouldn't be that we had to climb straight up walls, that we had to fight lions, that we needed explosive, repetitive stuff. The rep range of what we do involves a lot of steps. Like we have to walk from A to B. We have to go 5 miles. That's not what bodybuilders do. Bodybuilders train in a very specific rep range. So if somebody wants to add muscle, it's not about the diet. It's about the rep range they use when exercising.
Yeah.
So if you want to blow up your muscle size a little bit, it's easily done. You just have to do what bodybuilders do, train in the 15 to 35 reps range. But if being stronger is more alluring or more valuable to you, you can get stronger without really getting appreciably bigger. I've doubled my squat, for instance, over the years. Since I started strength training, I've doubled my squat, but I weigh the same as I did when I started.
Wow.
So
that's cool. And people got to watch the video because we have an awesome powerlifting video that we just recently put up of you as well.
Thank you for making it.
Link that below.
It wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating question between body image, body function, body development, and where do we put the blame?
Yeah.
You find out you don't carry as much muscle as you were giving yourself credit for.
Yeah.
Is that really the fault of 80-10-10? You could have lost weight on any diet and found out that you didn't have as much muscle as you were giving yourself credit for. You were just calling fat muscle.
Yeah.
If a lot of people find out they don't have as much muscle as they thought they did, and they're happy about it.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm nowhere near as big as I thought I was. Great. And then other people find out and they go, oh, it's terrible. And then I lost all my muscle and it's because I was eating fruit. Well, there's no diet other than starvation diet.
Yeah.
But there's no diet where you're eating food that causes you or results in muscle loss. Muscle loss happens from atrophy, disuse, from reductions in specific types of training, which is a modified version of atrophy, disuse. Muscle loss happens in nerve wasting conditions, right? So if the nerves to the muscles suffer damage or waste away, then the muscles will also waste away. But other than that, there's no diet. Maybe this should have been the beginning of the answer. No diet results in muscle loss.
Yeah.
But in the case of 80-10-10, where you lose fat, if you're overweight, and you might even lose fat if you're underweight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until you learn to eat enough fruit. And this is the basic issue, right? Because to a certain degree, visually and physically, we get trained to eat a certain volume of food.
Mm-hmm.
And when we switch from a very low water, very low fiber, standard Western diet, or even vegan diet, a cooked diet, where there's not a lot of water. In fact, how much water is missing from that diet, according to the professionals? 8 to 12 glasses of water per day.
Yeah.
So if we add 8 to 12 glasses of water per day into our perception of how much volume are we supposed to eat every day,
Yeah.
and instead of drinking it as glasses of water, we include it as part of our food, we see the volume blows up dramatically.
Yeah.
If we then also include all the fiber that has been removed from our food before it ever makes it to the table, for instance, if you've ever made carrot juice, you see how much fiber is being removed, a lot of volume. So the same thing when we use grain products and they're using refined grains, a tremendous amount of fiber is removed from the grain products in order to make it, sure, more palatable, easier to consume, but it also reduces the volume. So we run into this issue of calling a meal happy, when in fact the volume is so small that I feel sorry for people who eat those little meals.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm used to eating a big meal. And I would argue that our training, our mental design calls for us to eat big meals, which is part and parcel of the entire obesity epidemic that we're seeing today, where you can eat enough calories to meet your calorie needs, but it was nowhere near enough volume on a standard Western diet. And so you eat double the volume or triple the volume or quadruple the volume in order to eat the volume that you need to be happy. But then you ate quadruple the calories and you just blow up. And we're seeing even children becoming obese and young people becoming obese. It's the real problem. And people would say, okay, well, it's the same with 80-10-10, but in reverse, right? We have to eat so much volume we can't even get the calories we need.
Yeah.
That just takes a little bit of practice to become better able to consume the volume, to learn where is the density of the volume. Do I eat one date or do I eat half a watermelon to get the same calories? And you go, you know what? I think I'll eat the date because I don't want the volume today. Or do I eat a banana? Or do I eat 8 plums? Well, a banana might be easier to eat than 8 plums, and take
64 strawberries.
Yeah. So it's the same problem, but this is, I could go on this one. It's quite an issue. And to me, the answer is eat more fruit.
Yeah.
Be willing to give yourself a little practice at getting better at consuming more volume. If you want to muscle up, do what bodybuilders do, because invariably, if I'm looking for bodybuilders, I'm going to find them in the gym, not in the kitchen.
Or if I can add, or at least do the activity that builds the body you're looking for. So if you want to look like a gymnast, do gymnastics. If you want to look like a swimmer, become a swimmer.
Swim. Yeah, absolutely. A tennis player has one arm bigger than the other, and if you want to look like that, play tennis all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just what happens. And if you want to, like you say, if you want to move like a yogini, do a lot of yoga. If you want to flow, you want the open hip waddly walk. And I'm not knocking it. It's a gorgeous thing to see, but it's different. It's just different. And if you want to look like a springboard diver, like you said, like a gymnast, they're not far off each other, or whatever. You do that activity. The body develops to give you what you ask of it, including the ability to eat enough volume to hold on to your weight eating fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I'm almost surprised that people are surprised, because it's our natural diet. This is normal for human function. And the only reason it seems unusual or abnormal is because it's not what you grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, and we so frame our realities on what we grew up with.
Yeah.
That sometimes change can be a little difficult to accept. And if you practice accepting change, it gets easier, like everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I just think this is such an important question, and I can't, because, you know, like you said, it happens to most people when they bring into the diet. You know, they end up getting to a point where they feel maybe a little too skinny. And, you know, the two biggest reasons I've found people fall off the lifestyle is not eating enough calories. And the other one we'll get into in another one of these questions. But thanks so much, Doug, for answering this one today. And we'll see everyone in another. Sorry?
In depth, no less. In depth.
In depth. And I'm blessed by that. Thanks so much, Doug. This has been awesome. And look forward to more installments in the next video.
Cool.
Providing clarity on 80-10-10 with Dr. Douglas Graham.
Ooh, don't forget to check out my raw recipes playlist in the top left, the video just for you in the top right, subscribe for more videos in the bottom right, and get your 3 free ebooks in the bottom left. Grab your free raw recipe app, available on iPhone and Android, with over 100 free raw recipes, common fruit and vegetable calorie breakdown, frickin' raw food combining chart, shopping cart function, and so much more.